Hey, Bobby Manning here. Noah Dalzell alongside after the game of the year, 123-116. Cavs come in and tie the season series 2-2, set up a ton of anticipation for a potential East Finals matchup, and likely seal up that one seed here. Whether that matters or not, we can get into, but the game itself, no Porzingis, no Jrue Holiday. Cavs come in without any injuries, plus DeAndre Hunter, their big trade deadline addition, and it all amounted through a massive Donovan Mitchell stretch, a great Evan Mobley fourth quarter, and a pretty precise crunch time effort. They win this one, and they win it pretty dominantly, I feel like, after that 25-3 start for the Celtics. I think the score after that was about like 120-90 in favor of the Cavs. And the Celtics did go up by 17 again at one point. Tatum was out of this world. Brown was great too before his fourth foul. And they actually combined for their most points ever, which I didn't realize while I was watching this. But they didn't get anything else from anyone else. So where does this put you in terms of what you're thinking about the way these two teams match up?
I think you have a lot of respect for this Cavs team, not just because of how good they are on paper and all the talent they have, but I was just impressed with their resilience in this one. This place was as loud as I've heard it since the finals when they went up 25-3, and I looked over that Cavs timeout and they were not rattled at all, and they came out and they responded, and then again they fall down by 17 in the third quarter and they respond. So I think my biggest takeaway is that this team's legit. They have some veteran players. They have guys that have been a part of playoff runs, and you just felt like they had a very veteran response to the Celtics, really tough, impressive shot making. And I know Kenny Atkinson kind of praised Tatum's shot making in particular there. As far as the matchups go, I think DeAndre Hunter is a good addition. He definitely helps. I still think that Tatum and Brown are able to get to their spots against this team better than most of the other contenders, and so I like that. But you're going to need more from your other players because we've talked about this a million times. This team is at their best when it's not just the Tatum and Brown show, when it's everybody that's involved. And tonight I think they had to do what they did, and had they won, it would have been like they carried them to victory. But they need more from everybody else, and I think that there has to be a concerted effort to get those guys engaged because you're not going to be able to. This team is the Celtics played 38 minutes apiece. On the Cavs side, they were playing 25 minutes apiece. They really kind of evened out the load there.
Shuffling guys in and out. And when you look at the other matchups this year between these two, guys have been out in pretty much every position. Cavs get the win when Brown and White are out in Cleveland. The first game, all the Cavs wings are out here, and the Celtics control that game for the most part. And then the third game was just really sloppy when we were out there for that one. So this one, again, you're throwing in the caveat that Porzingis isn't out there and that you don't have Jrue Holiday. But if we're just taking it for what it is and what happened here, Celtics start small. I don't know if it was the right move. They wanted to attack the zone. They try to integrate some wings early in this game between Craig and Peterson, and they end up going big later because of Brown's foul trouble and those guys' ineffectiveness. A scary night for Pritchard in terms of his effectiveness in this matchup, and I know he's had a good game in this matchup at this point, but you do have questions about that. Minus 35 here, which was pretty wild, and Sam Hauser in a spot start, despite being able to log massive minutes, wasn't himself, and you just don't get the scoring from anyone else. Luke wasn't great off the bench in this one. It was just a Tatum and Brown show, like you said, and that's not the formula for success. And Brown said after, they were trying to stay home on the other guys. They were trying to make those two play one-on-one, and when you have 5, 6, 7 wings like the Cavs have now after all these additions, you can kind of just keep subbing in guys to throw different looks and see who's effective on those two. And even though they don't have a Brown or Tatum, they have a lot of really good wings on that side now.
They have a complete roster. They really do. They've done a good job over there. They're well coached. They are a legitimate contender. That's how I view them. I really do. The one element, and I know you mentioned Porzingis and Jrue being out, but I keep going back to Jrue in that playoff series last year, just going at Donovan Mitchell and just tiring him out. Even if he ended up scoring 20 in one of those games, and he had a pretty offensively productive series, but just his approach, and he said it after one of those games. I think it was game 3. He said, I'm going to tire him out because he's a guy who obviously carries a big load offensively. Nobody was really doing that tonight just because of the fact that, he was kind of guarding Sam. Sam didn't do much offensively, but there is a level, another dynamic that the Celtics are going to be able to add here with Jrue. And I know Jrue's a question mark because he hasn't been 100% 100% himself to the Jrue that we saw in the playoff run. Even Porzingis, from a rim protection standpoint, they really didn't have that once they got past that first layer of defense. So, you don't want to make excuses, but certainly I think there are things that I was watching tonight that I was actively thinking about, well, this would be a lot different. I mean, particularly the Sam Hauser getting hunted down the stretch, like he wouldn't be out there. But Jalen said it a lot of times post-game. I think Tatum the same. They had enough to win this game, and that's encouraging still, because I do feel like the Cavs played a pretty connected game. Guys played pretty well. Minus that first few minutes, they actually performed well. But I'm really excited for this series. I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I hope we get it. Everybody's talking like it's like a surefire thing. I hope we do get it.
They've built a team that can challenge the Celtics, and that's all you can say right now. I think we both feel like the Celtics would win this series, but if 1-2 main guys are down for the Celtics, it probably swings in the Cavs' favor, especially with home court at that point, and they're probably going to have that at this point as well. But Atkinson's great too, and that's a major difference over last year, is that it feels like there's a worthy foe on the other sideline for Joe, going to Mobley at center late, going to different looks throughout this game defensively, winning the three-point battle. That doesn't happen often against the Celtics, and they did that here.
And the Celtics shot well. I think they shot in the 40s, so it's not that they were cold.
Yeah.
Their attempts were limited.
Yeah, they're like minds. I feel like those are two coaches who emphasize similar things, new school, cutting edge, those sort of things. And it's another difference over last year, along with Donovan Mitchell being a guy that can get you back into any game here. So we'll see what it looks like come May, if it comes to that. Is there any part of you that feels like losing the 1 seed race there is a real loss?
To be honest with you, I think it's been out of reach. I felt like even if they were going to win this Cavs team is just too consistent.
Is it a factor, though?
What was that?
Is it going to be a factor?
Yeah, I mean, you want the 1 seed. You want, they're potentially facing a playoff path that would require them beating the historically great Cavs on the road and then the historically great Thunder. Because if you look at both of those teams' records and point differentials this year, they're up there with the all-time best regular season teams. That's why the Celtics are in third overall, because there's two teams that are really making history. So you're setting yourself over a more daunting path. But we've talked about it. This team is as good as any on the road. They've been better on the road than they've been at home, and I don't think that they're afraid of going into Cleveland and having to steal one. If there's a team that's not, it's this group. So that's the flip side of it. I think Jalen was pretty clear about how he felt about it post game, and then that's that you want it, but you're not going to be overly concerned about seeding ultimately. So I think the good thing is once it's out of reach, it's like you're not going to be overly worried about it down the stretch, and you're going to prioritize long-term health too.
Yeah, and that's a big deal for the Celtics right now, making sure everybody's right. Feels like they need everybody this time around, even though they beat Cleveland and played most of that run without Porzingis a year ago. They missed him badly, missed Jrue as well in this one, but you give the Cavs a ton of credit for what they were able to do here and the roster that they've constructed at this point to legitimately challenge the Celtics in the East. And I think that's what you have to say they can do here is push the Celtics if it does come to that in the East Finals. Let us know what you think of them below in this matchup here. And the Celtics are back here on Sunday against the Nuggets. We'll see if Jrue Holiday can return with that finger injury. We'll talk about that in our next video. But for Noah Dalzell, I'm Bobby Manning. Cavs beat the Celtics, and the season series finishes 2-2 between these two top teams in the East.